So let's discuss this Black Panther movie. I want to start off by first saying this movie was absolutely phenomenal. It was great. It was fantastic. It had all these black people, great black superstars, everything. And I'm not saying that in a way where it's like black people are superior to, any other race or anything. But just, we'll get more into that. But yes, there was so many different black people, black actors, all this just great essence behind Black Panther. The message was absolutely phenomenal. But I will say that there were some things that could have definitely been improved. I think that the antagonist had a good objective, but it wasn't solid and deep enough. And maybe that'll be more. It'll be more disclosed as we get into the type talk of the discussion towards the end of this video. But overall, the movie was great, and I think that it was definitely worth the hype that people have been making it out to be. All the different races, coming together, the soundtrack that Kendrick Lamar put together with that, and it's beautiful seeing all these different people, of different races, but especially, us black people, uniting, going to see the movie together, wearing our dashikis, or for those who don't have the dashikis and, the all black, that thing, is lit. All of that is just great. And I just wanted to, sit down with y'all and give you guys a few thoughts on what I thought about, Black Panther. So first and foremost, last night I went to go see it with the squad of people. We went because Jamila actually put it all together. About 2 weeks ago was her birthday, and she decided that she wanted to spend her birthday, even though it was 2 weeks later, she wanted to spend it with a group of people that she knew and cared about. And we all go see Black Panther together, and it was her idea. I don't know whether it was her original idea or just something that she was seeing as a trend online already, but it was her idea for us to all wear all black, or if you don't have all black, then a dashiki, but just something kind of to represent the black pride, black power, type of movement that the movie is seemingly symbolizing, or at least empowering. So something that Tay, my roommate, had brought up and that he kept on talking about, he actually put it on his Insta story, and apparently a lot of people have been giving him flack about this, was that he was he was very agitated and very annoyed that people have been posting Black Panther pictures and posts and everything with the fist up and everything, and he pretty much, his concern was that people are making it appear as if Black Panther has to do with the Black Panther political party that was out back in I'm not going to give out a date that I'm not entirely sure of. He believes that people believe that the Black Panther movie is linked with the Black Panther political party that was fighting for, black people's rights and, black power, equality, and everything, and kind of where this whole thing started from. And that sparked a lot of good conversation between me and Tay, because to an extent he is right, and I acknowledge that and everything, but from my thoughts and from what I know about Black Panther is that, ironically, it actually came out before the Black Panther political party became a thing. The comic books were actually out before the Black Panther political party, and it was even to a point where they changed, because of that, they changed his name from Black Panther to Black Leopard, I believe. But then eventually, they were no, this is dumb, let's just change it back. We're the original Black Panther, that's just what it's going to be. And there is even, issues of Black Panther fighting the KKK. So, it's not, totally off, but Tay's whole thing was that they're not directly the same thing. And black people are making it seem as if, they're directly, the same thing. I told him that although, people are, putting up their fists and, doing whatever, and it's not really linked, linked to black power and, the Black Panther political party and everything like that. One thing that he should at least, acknowledge is just I was saying at the beginning of this video, this is a movie that it took a long time for us to be able to get to this level. if that makes sense. We have Forrest Whitaker in there. We got Denzel Whitaker in there even. We got Michael B. Jordan, and like we have all of these characters. The woman that was playing Michonne from Walking Dead. We have such a great black cast. This movie is empowering us because it's not often that you see, first of all, a black superhero. Second of all, a black superhero is actually intellectual. Third of all, a black superhero with even a black antagonist on top of that. But the whole movie in general was just like, it's great because it had so much empowerment for black people. And I think that that's why so many black people hopefully are feeling inspired and more like, united and everything, because I believe the movie's main message was not black people against white people. Spoiler alert. It started off as Africans versus African Americans pretty much. But then it showed and kind of like bridged the gap between the two. And I think that this is a very important gap to bridge because this is definitely a thing. I remember growing up, and for those of you who don't know, I'm actually Ghanaian, I always talk about like how I was from Ghana and everything. Well, my parents are from Ghana. And I remember growing up and I used to actually hide that I was African. I used to literally feel shame that I was an African, that my parents were African, whatever the case was. I was like completely shameful about it. And it was disgraceful because of how people would treat me. They called me like African booty scratcher, or they said that I was dark, too dark. They would like make fun of the language. Oh, we don't do that, but okay, and they just made Africans seem like, like really weak and like, just like not like kind of like monkeys, and the thing is, it wasn't even white people who were doing this, but it was African Americans themselves, like people who are only like one shade lighter than me, or maybe 2 shades lighter for the light skinned or brown skinned people, whatever. They're like, oh, yo, you're mad dark, or like when the lights would go off, like, oh, where did Denzel go? And it's like, really, and it wasn't until like I started getting older, it's like, wait a minute, why are you saying this when you come from Africa, It was just very disappointing to have people who are of African descent shaming you for being African. My full name is Denzel Opoku Mensah. And I used to try and hide my middle name like so often. Even still nowadays, like it's a struggle. Like people are like, oh, what's your middle name? I don't tell people. I think there's only like 2 people who know it, Jamila and Emily, maybe. Like, and it's because like they begged the mess out of me or something. But other than that, like, yeah, like it was just really, really like a big deal for me because growing up I was made fun of that much for being African, and they made Africans seem like a bad thing. So even to the point where I came here to Liberty University and I would see, like the Africans rolling together, the African crew, whatever, and I avoided them. They didn't even know that I'm Ghanaian. They didn't even know that I could speak Tree, stuff like that, like because they were so, I seemed to blend in so much with the African Americans and all of that because I was ashamed. I didn't want to be made fun of anymore. I didn't want to be known as an African anymore. Or whenever people would ask, "Are you African?" It's like, "Oh yeah, my parents are African. I'm from here. I was born in the Bronx. Stuff like that." But this movie, what I like about it is it actually makes you proud to be an African. And this has been something that's been on the come up for a while. Like within the past few years, you really haven't been hearing too much about like African booty scratchers and like people are actually starting to embrace their roots of Africa and everything. Africans are starting to actually be on the come up. And I believe that this movie has just skyrocketed that because Wakanda is a place where Africa doesn't seem like, a third world country anymore. In fact, it's more advanced than even America. It's more advanced than any other place. Africa is the place that's helping everywhere else. They kept it to themselves, with all the vibranium and everything. But finally, they're like, you know what? We are going to share our resources. We are going to share, the knowledge that we have and all of that. And I believe that's beautiful. I always talk about like how Ghana was originally called the Gold Coast. It had so much gold that they didn't even know what to do with it. Before the British came through, colonized it, took so much of the gold back and everything. And it's just really interesting because, in the movie, spoiler alert again, Michael B. Jordan's character, Killmonger, he's in the museum and he's looking at different artifacts, and then he's talking to the woman who's like pretty much like giving the tour of the museum, or like, just one of the people who like watches, and then he's like, I'm gonna take this one off your hands. She's like, this isn't for sale. He was like, you think that's, like, how do you think that your ancestors got this? They just like, they asked if it was for sale? No, they took it the same way I'm about to take it from you. And that was a really good point because, and it's not to bring racism back, but like, that's how things happened back then. This movie just brings back, like, it kind of like returns the power that black people had lost and their identity that they had lost back to them in a way, or it at least urges us or reminds us or pushes us to, go searching back for that power, to appreciate it, to respect it. And then that brings me to my next point. Yesterday after the movie, one of my friends that was in the group, Kayla, she asked if we believe that, if I believe or anybody believes that if racism will ever actually die out. And my honest answer to that was no. I believe that ideally I would love for it to completely die out, to completely fizzle out, but to be honest, it seems like a thing that just may never happen. And my reasoning behind that was because as long as one race is always trying to seem more superior than another race, you're always going to have some sort of like antagonist. You're always going to have people who are coming against you. You're always going to have people who are trying to continue to oppress you in a way. And it's been said that, like black people can't be racist because in order to be racist, you have to have power to be able to oppress a whole different race. But that doesn't mean that we can't be discriminative. And this is what I have to say to my fellow black people. I believe that black lives do matter. I'm all for that. You know what I'm saying? I definitely believe that black lives matter. I saw a metaphor one time of, someone saying like black lives matter, and then someone else was like, no, like all lives matter. I think it was actually an analogy. It was a little comic strip. And then he was like, oh yeah? Okay. Well then, and pretty much long story short, a house was on fire and another house was not on fire. The whole message, the moral of the comic was that the house that was on fire was the one that needed the fire department to come and, hose it down. The other house did not need that. And the message they were trying to get at was that the reason why black people feel the need to say like Black Lives Matter, black women are beautiful, this is that, is not necessarily to say that black lives are superior to other races. Hopefully they're not saying that. For those who are saying that, you're wrong. You need to stop. We're not trying to seem superior to any other race, but we're just trying to even out the playing field. So we're self-empowering each other so that we can continue to get to a level where we think that other races already are because of the oppression that we had gone through for so long. Even though like we're not necessarily like racist, according to many people's like definitions and everything, we are still being discriminative and you're still encouraging racism. The way that I see it, we have the white people pretty much were here while black people were like down here. And now black people are trying to like get up over here. And we're like, black is beautiful, black is this, black is that, black is this. And then the white people are like, yo, why are they, doing that, whatever? So they got to try and climb up and get a little bit above over here, and then we're just going to keep on going like this. But I feel like what Martin Luther King Jr. really wanted was to empower us black people up until we got right here, where the white people are. I don't believe at all that he believed that black people were the superior race. Because in all honesty, we're not. We're not. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have value. That That doesn't mean that we're not valuable in any way or any shape or form, and it doesn't mean that white people are like superior race or anything, and that they should have oppressed us back then. It is bad that they did that. They did terrible things, but we're in a whole different era right now. We cannot continue to show bitterness towards those who they can't help what their ancestors did. And history, that has happened, and we will not forget that. But we have to make sure that we are bridging the gap for equality, not superiority. And as long as we're continuing to have that superiority, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We're going to always have white people who will get defensive because they believe that black people are trying to become superior race, that they're trying to insinuate that they are better than white people, that they're better than Asians, that they're better than this, they're better than that. And there are black people who do that, or they at least make it seem that way. This is a message to all of the races, like for the white people, especially those who are always talking about all lives matter. Once again, the argument, yes, all lives do matter. Every life matters. Every house matters. But if there's a house, a building that's on fire, then that building needs more attention right now so that we can hose it down, and then it could be back on the same playing field, the same condition as all of the other buildings. And so please understand that when black people are, being all empowered and, prideful and joyful about, whatever is going on and all of that, then understand they're just trying to, at least majority, hopefully most of them, are just trying to, make up for where they lacked in their identity in the past. They're trying to make up for all of the oppression that their ancestors have gone through and, many of the identity crises that they had faced. And now they're trying to be you know what? No. I'm proud to be black, just in the same way now I'm proud to be African. I proudly rock my Nanayao, name wristband that I got from Ghana because it's hey, back then when I was younger, I was made fun of so often for being African. Now I don't care. I'm happy. I'm more solid. I'm more solidified in my identity, and I'm very proud to be an African. I'm very proud to be born here. I'm very proud to be a New Yorker from the Bronx, but I'm also very proud to have Ghanaian parents and attend a Ghanaian church whenever I go back to New York. I embrace my roots, but that doesn't mean that I'm better than African Americans. That doesn't mean I'm better than white people, Asians, Spanish, none of that. We are all equals. And I think that's just what I want to really hit at. That if you are a black person who's making it seem like our race is superior to other people's race, please stop. Because if anything, you're only adding more gasoline to that fire. And we don't need that. Let's all try and get along. If you're a white person who's racist, like black people for whatever reason or for the reason I just stated, I apologize on their behalf. But this is something that I really believe, if we had a world where all of us, we didn't necessarily ignore skin color and race and everything, because culture is beautiful, race is beautiful. We should acknowledge it. As long as we are continuing to try and one-up each other, there's always going to be racism. Because the black people are going to spark fires within white people who think that then they have to step up and be defensive, and the black people are going to try and be even more defensive. And I've been just beating a dead horse with this for the past several minutes, but I just really want to nail this one in. And if you guys get what I'm saying, then please spread that around to your friends. And let's hopefully one day, ideally, maybe racism will never completely disappear, but with this message, we can now have people who are actually understanding more, having more discussions with the right motives, and who knows what will come from that. And lastly, I just wanted to discuss some typology terms and everything with you guys. So first off, T'Challa. I believe that he was ISFP. I have the ISFP interview video with Jamila, people like Mulan, Michael Jackson, Tori Kelly, Sierra, Jackie Chan, people like that is pretty much how I see T'Challa to be, the actual Black Panther. It was interesting because I also believe that the antagonist, Killmonger, was ENTJ, which even though they have completely different letters, they have the same functions. So they're in what we call the gamma quadra, where they all share the same functions of FI, introverted feeling, SE, extroverted sensing, NI, introverted intuition, and TE, extroverted thinking. Only it's in different orders. So, like, I just did the ISFP's function stack, but the ESFP would have the first two and the last two reversed, and then the INTJ would, it's just stuff like that. So, the Gamma Quadra is made up of SFPs and NTJs. They all share the same functions. And I think that was even more ironic because T'Challa, due to him valuing FI, then he knew who he was, but he had trouble, from what I saw, from my perspective, he had trouble like using his TE to like really like implement what was necessary, which is why he had Okoye, I believe is her name, who was ISTJ. She had TE as an auxiliary function, and she was just down for the cause. She was very traditional and very loyal to her country. ISTJs tend to be that way. They tend to be the types of like, this is how it's always been. If it's not broke, then why fix it? And that's kind of how she was. She was cold. She was such a great warrior. All of that. And she really helped T'Challa with his TE, like in implementing, certain things and all of that. And they, like disagreed here and there, but then there you go. So I believe that Okoye was ISTJ, T'Challa was ISFP, and that Killmonger was ENTJ. And you can see Killmonger use strategy even from the first scene of when he was in the museum and all of that. He was fascinated with the symbolism and history of Wakanda. This isn't like completely like revealed like right away, but he's just checking it out. He's trying to understand the culture and everything better. He strategically gets what he wants using his NI and everything, and he definitely has a TE drive. Like he killed numerous people. Like every dot on his body or every like scar was pretty much symbolizing a death that he had. He had gone through military, he had gone through wars, all of that to finally get to that one point where he would take over Wakanda. And he was able to actually go ahead and do that for a period of time. And this is because ENTJs usually have like the best follow through of all the types. Like if they have a goal, if they have their mindset on something, they're going to achieve it. A fun fact about them that a lot of them probably won't admit to you, everything that they're driven by is based off of emotion. And it may not be like an emotional way of which they're going about it, but that's kind of how they are. And I think about Prometheus from Arrow. I believe it was season 4. For those of you who haven't seen it, you should definitely go watch it. ENTJs tend to be incredibly intelligent. I think of Paul Briggs as well from Graceland, another ENTJ. They're incredibly intelligent and incredibly strategic, and they're incredible at getting exactly what they want. Their weakness, ironically, is their inferior function, FI. Once their identity has been exposed or attacked, or they see that it's fallen apart, they no longer have that drive. And in this movie, when Killmonger discovered who exactly he was not always who he thought that he was. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, then you probably don't really understand what I'm saying. I'm trying not to put like too many spoilers in this, but yeah, Killmonger, when he discovered that, then he pretty much was like, dang, okay, well in that case, he pretty much like surrendered himself. And the same thing happened with Prometheus from Arrow. He had his NI driving his TE, but his NI wasn't working very well with his FI. But once his FI became like solidified, or in other words, shattered, because he realized some truths about his identity in the same way that Killmonger did, then all of a sudden they submitted. And they were just like, you know what, it's whatever. And they both ended up like killing themselves pretty much. But yeah, I just found that to be like pretty fascinating because T'Challa was ISFP, and he was very in tune with his own feelings. He was very in tune, with like what was right and what was wrong. He even told his own father like that wasn't right, and he also even had compassion for Killmonger like at the end when he didn't even want to kill him anymore, and he was like hesitant to be as violent. Just like I said, like Jackie Chan, yo, sorry, you know, like he doesn't really want to fight, but like when he has to, then he will. And he was very diplomatic. He was able to also see, you know, like the sides of others. You know, he was stylish. Everybody in this movie was incredibly stylish. I also believe that Shuri, I'm sorry for all the mispronunciations on names and everything, but his sister in the movie, T'Challa's sister, was definitely an ENTP because she was incredibly innovative. She was able to, you know, think of all these different possibilities for her inventions and everything. She had a really good, like, blunt nature, like, well, obviously this and obviously that. But then at the same time, she had good FE as well because she cared about people. She created all of her machines for people. She wanted to impress people, you know, with the machines and the inventions that she made. Where she lacked in, like, agility and all of that, she made up for with her intelligent mind. And then you also have T'Challa's love interest. I don't really want to say her name right now because I'm tempted to say Nokia, and that's a brand of phone. I actually had trouble typing her. I believe that she could have possibly been ENFP because she was hesitant to, you know, join T'Challa at the beginning, and she seemed to always be like checking in with herself before she like made a decision and all of that. And then finally she was like, oh my goodness, like I love him. And that was the difference between her and the ISTJ. Although she loved her husband, there was a part where her husband, by the way, I believe was ISTP, but there was a part where she, like, her husband was like, so you would abandon me or you would kill me? And then she was like, you know, for the sake of my country, yes, I would. Because she was pretty much putting aside her own personal feelings, tertiary FI, to do what she needed to do. And the other girl that I'm talking about, the love interest, she, on the other hand, I believe that she was ENFP because she held her values and her loyalty to her husband, or not her husband, but T'Challa, more than she even held to, like, you know, anybody else, pretty much. And it took a while for her to progress to that point. However, Jamila and David believe that she could have possibly been ENFJ, and I guess I would just have to, like, watch it again and see. But that's some scrambled thoughts for you guys. If you guys have any comments, questions, whatever, disagreements, you know, go ahead and comment, discuss this in the comment section, and I'll be definitely, like, keeping up with you guys. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be mentioning this in future videos as well. Maybe I'll watch the movie again sometime, and I'll put out another video, like a part 2 to this, where I'm, like, explaining more in depth about the typology and everything behind it. But overall, it was a great movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, then go ahead and see it. Make sure to also remember that Africans are not better than African Americans. African Americans are not better than white people. White people are not better than anybody. All races are equal. And even if we don't see it that way right now, let's try and get to a point where we do see it that way. There is no superior race, just human beings, and that's how we have to be. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and done.